It is a bit more motion sick on a ladder that collapses, but I think it's worth the excitement.
24 has been pretty rough for our industry.
Updating foundation on existing house is not easy.
So Climb 2, its main new thing is the city levels. And the good thing about city levels is that the sense of scale works a lot better on something you're used to. And that makes it so much more terrifying to climb on it.
With the Climb 2, all we wanted to establish is make use of gameplay that the IP has been known for, but bring new surroundings. We wanted to just sustain the experience by optimizing it with the tutorial and some mechanics we have refined along the side that we couldn't refine anymore for Climb 1. And we wanted to just show how it is to climb on man-built objects.
Climb 2 was interesting. We had the mobile pipeline established by the conversion of Climb 1 already, so it was a bit easier. We don't have to work on defining the specs for this platform so much. And it was also the luxury situation that it was not just a conversion, but we can build new levels. We had a lot of ideas, but the production came back and said, oh, this is too crazy, we don't want to go there. There was the Climb 1 DLC where we went to ice and snow levels and also lava level, so you climb up a volcano.
For the Rift version, it was like, with ice shader and lava. I had put a moving iceberg in there, and then there was the airplane with the moving blade. It was just super cool addition to the game.
And we wanted to actually do this much stronger. We had so crazy ideas, but they were all like, yeah, let's keep something for later. If we now burn all the crazy ideas, there's no later.
For Climb 2, there was like more of a parkour style edition where we went a bit more crazy in terms of what do players do. They do crazy jumps, they want to slide on things, like go a bit away from I need to construct a rock wall to support a crazy jump. No, we just say you do the crazy jump because we can just place it in a virtual space, right? Let's just go crazy with what we can do.
There was the thing with the inside rotations don't work. You get sick of doing an inside rotation, like inside a corner. And it's always better if you rotate outside of a corner. So most of the levels were built with outside rotations, and there was always the goal to avoid inside rotations. And you never really realize it when you play it, but it gets lost in the flow of the level. But there are limits to what you can do, and there's a gameplay need of let's make this fun, let's make this a gap. We need to get up here, even if a wind turbine has no grips to climb up. It all happens inside. We just put grips outside to climb up. So there's a lot of interpretation so that it works fun in the end.
So in Climb 2, I wanted to add more physics simulated objects because some parts in the first version, the first Asia level, you climb on a little wood beam and it just starts to crumble and fall a bit. Shocking moment for so many people. No motion sickness though. Maybe the motion sickness is overridden by the terrifying shock moment. I don't know, but I tested it a couple of times and climbing on physics simulated objects seemed to work fine. Some people will always get motion sick by climb, and maybe it is a bit more motion sick on a ladder that collapses, but I think it's worth the excitement. So these dynamic elements is what made it more interesting. You have your climbs on the static rock wall, and then a couple of moving elements is just so cool to break up the level. And in Climb 2, we have these hanging containers, we have the moving billboard, we have this ladder that is lying on the side of the skyscraper, and you grab it and it starts to swing to the side, and it's just cool.
But all very exciting. I mean, I love this kind of stuff very dearly. So at the beginning, it was sometimes a bit stomach turning till you built a bit of resistance. and could stomach it all, literally. But then over time, this was completely fine. I love the VR projects.
So in order to not call it a sequel, because we don't think it's a sequel per se, but at the same time, it's also not just an update. We established basically a subtitle 1896 to place it as an upgrade from Hunt Showdown to Hunt Showdown 1896.
The launch of 1896, I think, has seen a mixed response. It's very important that Hunt remains Hunt Showdown, like the game that everybody loves and likes. We don't want to move it to be something else. We want to make sure we embrace what the game is all about. But obviously also a game cannot just stay still. Like, it needs to evolve, it needs to move on. We need to put things into it in order to make sure the game thrives and grows, but always in a respectful way.
So basically, we went from Gen 8 to Gen 9. So we updated the game with a complete new technology stack. We upgraded the visuals. We upgraded on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series natively.
Some people appreciated some of the changes we've been doing. The new map, Mammon's Gulch, was received very well, but also we were struggling with a lot of technical problems, and some of the design decisions we've taken, people were kind of like not really happy with.
Updating foundation on existing house is not easy. And especially if you were not touching this foundation for essentially since 2018 when we released, yeah, that was quite a lot of this preparation work to make sure that things are not broken. Some things still became quite shaky. I mean, that happens when you change foundations, even though the foundation is supposed to be like, according to the plan, exactly the same or like similar enough.
The player, they get, I think they get a more stable frame. I mean, of course, we had to do a bit of tweaking at the end to figure out like what, because we have it's a different story these days. Like back in the days, you had Can It Run Crisis, and now you have someone with a 12-year-old CPU saying, I can't run the game. I'm not going to buy a new CPU because of this. So it's a bit of a mind shift these days. So there's a lot of versatility for the engines. There's a lot of challenge. So you have like very low performance to high performance. And I think this is where the engine has grown, because it can do a lot of low performance stuff, but also it can push the high performance plays. So they contribute to the variety of player base that you have out there.
What was important for us is to kind of take stock of like, are we going in the right direction? Is this really what we need? Where should we maybe wind back? And I think lots of the decisions that we've taken from there on have helped make the game better over the updates afterwards and also still in the future.
For Crysis 2, they went to New York. I think for Rise, the field trips stopped. And for Hunt, we went out in the forest here and scanned a lot of trees. So some Hunt tree assets are actually Frankfurt surrounding forest assets, but we can shape them in a way that they feel more like Louisiana.
Going back to the old maps and reworking them and improving them was very rewarding. I think also the team really enjoyed it, and there was really clever decisions there made to really get the most bang for the buck, because we had a limited time frame, obviously, not gonna lie. We have a lot of other things to do, right? We time-boxed it quite aggressively to a few months and then really tried to make the most out of it. We didn't touch every single asset, but we touched the most important ones, for example, and we touched the dressing and colors and many other aspects. Lighting, of course, played a huge part.
I had a chance to push in more details, more geometry on ground clutter objects, longer view distance ratios of objects, so I could put in more detail for Gen 9, definitely.
We also branch out a little bit, of course, right? So we want to provide new experiences to players too. We don't want them to play the exact same game year after year after year, but we always have to see like, how far do we really want to go? Obviously with something like Murder Circus, we pushed this a bit, what Hunt could be, but hopefully also creating something fresh and interesting to the players. And then it was, of course, very challenging to fit something like this into the world of Hunt, and try to also follow good design principles there that makes it part of the world. There was really some things that were on the bucket list that we were like, for years we want to have that stuff. Like, we were literally shipping characters with a vegetation shader on their hair. That's what we were doing, right? And that was never great and never ideal. And we were very happy to finally improve those. And there was a very outdated grading pipeline and many other aspects to it. Finally, you have HDR in the game, and this is just all the tech features, right? Thankfully, though, a lot of the art, even though it's like many, many years old by this time, still holds up really well. And this is like a testament to the great artistry that went into the game.
Concerns are always there about the pace of the game, right? And I think most of these times I hear people talk about that. They're afraid that maybe the game is becoming too fast, or that you just have only rapid fire weapons, etc., or that's just too easy to spam versus having a skillful shot. And I think those are valid concerns. I would say we're still like a far cry away from ever being close to like a mainstream shooter. We still have our niche, we still have our gameplay. And I think like maybe it's easy to say for people who are very familiar with Hunt because they don't understand the complexity and obviously the richness of mechanics that we have in this game because it's all second nature to them. But for someone who comes in, I think they will find that there is a big difference to what Hunt Showdown offers compared to like a mainstream shooter. Just from the depth of the mechanics and just in general the sense of how you go and play the game, the fear of loss you have about your hunters, the tension you feel in a fight where maybe it ends the life of your hunter and you have to kind of build up a new one. That's a very, very different experience than what you see in any of those games by far.
The pacing of the game is what makes Hunt so amazing. The slow start of the game, you walk in, you may hear some shots in the distance, but it could be totally silent. You have no idea at what point the action starts. There's a build-up. The longer you're in the mission, the more intense the first fight will be. And I don't know if we could have seen that back then, but it turned out so great.
There's never going to be a shortage of ideas and new mechanics to try out. 1896 is a great time for ideas. However, at its core, Hunt is always going to be Hunt Showdown in terms of how you play it, how you suffer through it sometimes, but also the rewarding moments and stories you can tell as you're going to go through every single round again and again.
22, 23, and also 24 has been pretty rough for our industry. So what we have to learn as a company is basically refine our mission. And we just set up our new mission objective, which is very simple: maximum player trust. Hunt is a game which can help us to drive player trust if we do things right and we deliver what we promise. And therefore, Hunt is an important game and will continue being an important game for Crytek.
I feel like all the offices we have been to, they reflect all the list of Crytek. We started as a small team, not knowing what we are doing. It was basically a journey to discover what we are meant to do. Then we moved to Frankfurt, Hanauer Landstraße, where we were the underdogs. Then we moved to Reworking, where things got a bit more professional and serious. Then Neckermann, and this one is the next one. And I feel like it's a high upgrade. It also reflects how Crytek has been going through years.
The new office is epic. The new office is so cool. You know, when you talk, it's like the sound is absorbed by the ceiling, the floor, everything. It's so cool, the acoustic. You know, in the new era of being in online meetings and using your headset and microphone, it's so important to have a silent office.
You know that you're in a creative environment when you come in here, compared to other offices for other companies.
It's not about the company, it's not the building or the chairs or the computers. It's pretty much the people, right?
And if you are coming to the doors of Crytek, you feel like you are in a United Nations company. That is what makes me very proud.
It's a company with a great legacy. And that legacy has both good and bad parts, right? Like everybody internationally knows about Crytek and the Crysis game and such. And they have high expectations of the games, especially visually, graphically. And that's a good perk because already out there, if you release a new game, people will know about the company at least. But it's also a hindrance because then every game that we release will have to focus on the graphical fidelity and such.
I can really tell you, I won't go in details, but the 25 years has been intense. Great, exciting, eye-opening, horizon growing, everything actually. It was constant learning, and it will be constant learning.
It certainly has not all been plain sailing. There's, as the industry changes and evolves, the company has to change and evolve alongside with it.
It's like being married. You have ups and downs, but it lasts, and I'm loyal, and I love how it also developed. And a lot of changes happened also, and I'm looking forward to what else is coming. There were some tough times. If you overcome these, it creates an even stronger relationship, I think.
I've said this a couple times to Chevard every time when our game was finished, because he was always in it and he was always not happy with this, and I said, look, step back. Look what's on the screen, okay? When we ship the games, we are actually very happy. Yes, you can always do better, you can always do more. It was very critical for us that every game or every engine update back then has innovation, has new things to offer.
This is what I think is special about Crytek, is that no matter what you do, somebody else after you will make it even better. And then other person will make it even better, right? So everyone adds to this. And also it's driven by kind of self-responsibility. You don't sign a contract that says, oh, you have to do always better than the previous person or something like that. It's all on us. It's the part, I think this is the essence and the culture of the company.
For me, Crytek, I think innovation, I think international. We're all very international here. And I also think, fun as well. Like, we've had a lot of fun in these times. And it's very important, I think, at a company, especially in gaming industry, to have fun.
Crytek is still my first job in the industry. And I've been doing this for 18 years now at this place, so Crytek is family, Crytek is home.
It's actually an interesting experience, 25 years in the same company. Like some other guys, they kind of leave in companies, work on that project, on this company, that company, relocate. But for me, it was kind of the dream of the lazy person, projects coming themselves, offices change themselves.
This experience which you can accumulate on the project and then keep bringing on and referring to the experience in your next decision making, I think this is quite important.
So I started with Crysis 2, then there was Crysis 3, then there was Rise, I think. There was a bit of Homefront, there was Warface, there was Hunt, and then there was The Climb, the VR games, there was Robinson, and then The Climb 2. Whoa, that's 6, 7, 8 games or something. I mean, hands-on more games, but shipped is really, really, really cool.
I would have never thought that I get the opportunity to work on so many different things. When I started rendering was there are these rendering algorithms, there is a bit of GPUs, and you just make it work, right? But then there's all these topics and there is so much depth to each topic. You have VR as one thing, you have mobile as another thing, you have consoles, you have PC, and there is so much details in every little aspect. It's I would have never imagined how many things there are actually.
I never felt like I'm stagnating, especially as an artist here. With every project came a new challenge. If you look at Crysis, then you look at Crysis 2 and Crysis 3 and Rise and Hunt Showdown and so on. All of those games have different settings and different scenarios and different technology. You always have to adapt, you always have to learn, you always have to push. And that I never felt like I should go and do something else, because I was pretty sure that I won't find anything like that somewhere else.
The quality of the code management has gotten a lot better. It was a little bit chaotic when I got there, a little bit more hackerish in terms of people who are really talented and skilled, but sometimes lacking in organization. And I think it's gotten a lot more professional in terms of code development over the years, especially, now. I'm just, really happy with it.
25 years is long, but if I look backwards from the early days in 2000 in Coburg, when we grew from 6 to 39 people, and that was probably the toughest period because we also needed to develop a game. Then how we scaled, then we have to scale down, how we scale up, how the industry transforming. It's massive. There's no real downtime actually.
Hunt was a difficult game to make, but we strongly believed in the vision established by Magnus back then. But we never gave up, and we pushed and pushed and tried yet another time and yet another prototype, and then at one point it just clicked. And it's the same with other projects like Crysis, for example, having all that freedom and the breakability and all of those kind of things that people told us are not possible in the beginning. We still wanted to make them, and we kind of found a way to make them. So, trusting your gut and putting a lot of elbow grease into things can get you to places where you don't think you can get to.
On the one hand, we have this strong engineering culture where we focus really on engineering and get the best out of the technology. But then we have a lot of really amazing artists in-house. And it's the connection of these two things which I find the most interesting here.
In 25 years, how old am I? I'm 80. Oh gosh. I hope maybe my son can jump on board, and because he's a great gamer, he loves games, he's very interested in games. But as a company, I see hopefully many more great games coming from Crytek.
Achieved with CryEngine.